Well, hello everyone. Today we are going to talk about something somewhat controversial, your smartphone. It's fooling you and your clients. And we're going to talk about how your smartphone is affecting professional wedding and portrait photography. So let's talk about this. Smartphones, these lovely little things we carry in our pockets, and everyone else seems to as well, and how we've been hearing forever that, phones are going to take over professional photography. I'm here today to talk about the facts and falsehoods around this and how you can approach it with your clients, and things I've just seen in the last couple of years with the industry changing. And most importantly, how smartphones are affecting the way your clients are actually viewing your photos, and it just how they view photography in general, which are things you might not even realize. I'm Andreka from Andreka Photography and Coaching, here this fine Tuesday for our weekly Tuesday Talks, where I love to chat about all the business and industry stuff that we as photographers tend to sometimes forget. It really comes down to business and industry and understanding it and having community to talk about it with. So let's talk about smartphones. Now, the main reason I wanted to talk about this is that I found something last year after being almost 20 years in the industry that I have never, ever, ever had happen. And it happened to me with, I'm going to say 5 or 6 different clients. It was, everyone got their photos back. And I kept getting these responses like, why isn't my sky blue? Why isn't my sky blue? Why isn't the sky blue? And then I went back and looked at the photos, and I realized in some photos the sky was a pale blue. In some photos they might have been dark blue. But then I realized, first off, I Googled why sometimes the sky looks more blue in one space than another. And even right now as I look out, it's more darker blue on this side than it is over here. Science is the refraction of light, and I'm sure there's probably someone out there that knows it better than I do, but the way in which the sun hits the water, hits the sky, it changes in the direction and the time of day of the angle of which the sun is at. Yet, the iPhone, my friend, fills it in as a dark blue. I'm sure you've had it happen where you take a photo and you cannot get that exposure right, but the iPhone somehow does, and you're like, ugh, well, our clients are seeing this. And then they're thinking, we're doing something wrong, that our sky isn't blue. Yes, of course, there's ways in post-production you can go and do it. But when it comes down to it, the iPhone is giving our clients this, or the smartphone, whatever you have, it's giving our the idea of that this is real. There's a whole different discussion about how the phone in our industry is giving us an unrealistic view of the world. So this is something we have to learn to educate our clients about before we deliver the photos. So that's why we are going to talk about smartphones and how smartphones affect our world these days. We're going to be talking about the direct effects, how we can educate our clients about the differences, how we can talk about specific technical explanations to our clients, and why we shouldn't really worry about it in the future. Just be smart. So let's talk about the direct effects of the smartphone in our photo industry. Clearly, some of these are going to be obvious, but I'd be amiss not to mention them, especially because they're kind of like ignoring the elephants in the room, and that are the things that are causing us stress. One, increased accessibility. Everyone has a camera in their pocket now. This is obviously a thing, which gives people oftentimes a false sense of confidence, especially when they're using phones that all make it super easy. There's a rise in DIY wedding photography. In that case, it's similar to having a kitchen. Just because you have one doesn't mean you can cook like a chef. Pros, for example, have the knowledge, the experience, and everything else that we need, especially when it comes to weddings and portraits. A phone can't really replace. A wedding and a phone can't replace the planning we do before. Also, another effect that smartphones are having is a shift in perceptions. Clients sometimes are now undervaluing professional photography because they can take a photo with their phone. This misconception is that smartphones are good enough. Again, cringe when you think about your wedding and portraits, because this just isn't true. Nothing can replace the time and prep that goes into actually capturing the photo. For me, even though I'm a professional, my photos on the phone are never as good unless I really sit and take the time and think about it, which a normal everyday person doesn't even know how to do. And then another effect is the idea of instant gratification. Clients are expecting much quicker results, similar to the smartphone immediacy. This is why I think how the industry has changed in 20 years is, 20 years ago when you take photos, you never really had to show the client the back of the photo, much less little tiny kids when you're doing portrait sessions. Now, it's good to utilize the back. In fact, I know people back in the day that'll be like, I never show people the back of my camera. Now I would be surprised if people don't, because again, they expect quick results. They also just want to feel and know confident that their photo is turning out. Seeing it gives them a little bit of that feel of the instant gratification that an iPhone does. I mean, how often do we take pictures with our phone and then don't look back at the photo for a really long time? You still saw it, you got that gratification. This also puts a pressure on photographers to deliver faster. But that said, with the use of AI editing and all the different software programs out there, it is so much easier to turn around our own images incredibly faster. Aftershoot is blowing my mind when it comes to how fast I'm able to turn around my edits. In fact, I'm now so in love with Aftershoot. I think I'm actually going to do a Facebook Live about it coming up in the next couple weeks because it's incredible. All my shoots that I did this weekend, I already have up on my galleries, which has never happened for me ever. That said, you might not have Aftershoot, you might not like AI, you might like to take the time to edit. So it's really just important to then set realistic expectations with your clients at the very, very beginning. Have those conversations early, don't wait. Okay, so now let's talk about how to educate our clients kind of away from these effects and for them to understand again the value of pro photography. I know we all know and believe this, but we also have to be able to explain and educate to our potential clients, right? It's one thing for us to know it. It's another thing for us to know how to tell and educate and make our clients believe what we believe. So first, educating clients about the differences, quality versus convenience. Explaining the difference between like a quick snapshot and a professionally composed photo that, you know, you're taking the time to understand, and the artistic and technical expertise involved with professional photography, right? Like the clients know this, but sometimes they have to hear it again and imagine. So it's really good to then tell stories. Like, you know, if you're looking at it and what's the difference of someone with a smartphone can't do as much, they can't get as close, they can't explain the more different artistic qualities, which we're going to talk about a little bit more as well. And then the durability versus in longevity. Professional photos are going to be edited, they're going to be printed, they're going to be preserved to last forever. Where smartphones are most likely just going to stay online, and they're not going to be left, like they're only going to live as long as your phone does, and it could die at any point, right? So explaining the durability and longevity, especially because if someone's investing money in a portrait session, even if it's not money, if people are investing time, which as a portrait photographer that I've been doing 5 portraits this weekend, it's a lot of family stress when a family gets everyone together for the photos. It's not worth that, and having all those photos taken and dealing with the family dynamics if the photo is just going to live on a phone, right? Then there's also customization and personalization. Professional photographers are going to tailor their work to each couple's unique story and how they want it to look like. Smartphones are basically just going to offer generic filters and a lack of like the personal touch, right? Again, a lot of this will come into your artistic technique and how you use it to connect with your clients. Now, this is the part that clients may not understand, and this is the really important thing to remember when it comes to educating your clients about smartphones. And it leads me back to my story about the blue skies. Lighting and exposure. Smartphones can't handle tricky lighting conditions like a professional camera can, right? Especially darker conditions, dark lighting, fast-moving subjects, and zoom. We all know that you cannot zoom in on a phone and have it not be super grainy. No matter what, the phone does not replace a gigantic 70 to 200. They're really good at making outdoor natural light look that much better, hence the blue skies. You don't want this iPhone in your reception hall that's dark and has no lighting. Nothing is going to turn out. And you want to explain how professional equipment can capture these true colors and details, even in the challenging light. Number 2, dynamic range. Phones often create artificially enhanced skies and backgrounds, right? While professional cameras capture the true essence and ambience of a scene. They can actually pull out from what's real and make it work however, right? Where the phone just kind of throws in what people assume they want to see. This is a big one. Depth of field. Explain the difference between a shallow depth of field and in professional portraits versus a flat look on the phone. Even yes, they have the portrait mode, but you can't control it, and a lot of times it just blurs it flat. It doesn't actually give the range of a depth of field. And what I've come to realize is that oftentimes photography clients will look at a picture and go, wow, I really like that. But they don't know what they like. They just think it's a pretty photo. But if you pull up one of these beautiful portraits and go, you know why you like that? It's called depth of field. It's called the bokeh. It's called this dynamic range of focus. You can't get that on a phone, which is where the difference comes in. Highlight how professional lenses can create that bokeh effect. Okay, so now let's talk about why not to worry, right? If you know how to educate your clients, everything I've just said, we all believe is true. But if you're giving examples to your clients and putting them in the field of like their wedding, they're going to start to emotionally connect with why smartphones will never replace it. It can't. So why not to worry? Unique artistic vision. Of course, professional photographers are going to bring a creative vision that smartphones just can't replace. Your style, your artistry, your uniqueness, your value, your education. A phone is a phone is a phone. The emotional connection. This is huge. Personal interactions and understanding clients' needs are what set apart professionals. Understanding what to ask, understanding how to make a client feel at ease. These emotional moments, and especially the candid interactions you can capture, are irreplaceable. And that really comes down to your skill level, not an amateur or DIY or a friend holding an iPhone. And then the professional growth and adaptation. As professionals, we are having to always evolve. The industry is always evolving. So there's a level at which you have to kind of embrace the new technologies, but you can also remember that your expertise and experience are irreplaceable. So then the question is, how do you lean into the smartphones while still being able to use it for a tool and still combining with your professional level? Because at that point, your client is going to see you're not saying don't do this. You're not denying the elephant in the room. You're embracing it, which is actually going to be a big selling point. For example, one option is to sell a content creation package or offer, you need this? You want the phone for the instant gratification? We'll offer a tiny little bit of that, but only in exchange for a lot of the other professional stuff that we know down the road you're going to want and need. So friends, that is my quick 15-minute breakdown of smartphones, and I hope you look at all of the smartphone technology in a very different way. And I'm telling you, this whole blue sky thing really threw me for a loop, and I'm now looking at things a little differently and having to think about what I need to talk about with my clients before the shoot or even during the shoot. So if I'm in the middle of photographing a big beautiful day, I might even say, hey, just so you know, I got a challenge for you. I want you to look at the sky right now and look at it this direction. It's deep blue. And now I want you to look this direction, and it's not. An iPhone might trick you on this. Make a joke, make a play, make a game out of it, and it's going to make it less awkward later when they're like, what's wrong? Where's my blue sky? So friends, I hope that was helpful. Thanks.